Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Gaming to the Max and the start of a new series on the channel, Hearts of Iron 4, Equestria, or the Griffonian Empire. So, in the last series we were playing, which is still going on right now, I've pretty much finished my recordings for it. I've got one more episode to record, but I wanted to get us into the new series that we're going to start. We're going to play as Griffonia here. We had them as an ally that then betrayed us and then went back to being an ally after we invaded them. We're going to be playing as them and seeing how they play through. I know the county of Bronze also got a new focus with this new update, so we'll see them as an ally hopefully throughout this series. But we're going to go down the duchy path, which is the monarchist path, instead of going the supremacist route, which is like the religious, I guess you'd consider it, the Archeon, which is their holy leader in the country. So we're going to be going down the actual true Griffonian Empire, go through. So I'm gonna start on regular, get this set up. I thought it would be really cool. Usually I don't try to record the same mod over and over again in sequence, but I thought it'd be really cool to see what the Griffonians would have to offer after seeing what the Changelings had to offer through their territory and their playthrough. So if you guys would like to read this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. You guys can pause and read through this. This is just telling you what's going on in the Griffonian Empire, the sick bird of Griffonia. So we'll scroll down, and if you guys would like to read that, it talks about why there's a regency, and how Emperor Grover V regained his throne. So it talks about the region here. If you'd also like to pause and read through this, some mechanics and change logs, that's fine. So first off, simple as always, we're going to jump into construction, production, and engineering with the early electromagnetics. Construction wise, how many factories do I have? 5. Okay. So not enough really to make a huge difference. Getting a little bit of infrastructure early on would be okay. Good enough. Griffonheim, which is the capital, is fully fully good on the amount of infrastructure it has. We start with 15 divisions. We're going to throw them under some field marshal. Well, there's a changeling. That's pretty cool. We do get changeling officers. And we have quite a few. There's a diamond dog. There's Thranks, who's another changeling. I like his artwork there. And he's got a story. So let's see. I'm not sure who we get to keep as field marshal, so I'm not going to immediately jump into getting that. But we're building light tanks, artillery, support equipment, and rifles. We're going to worry more about rifles than anything. We can borrow some loan money, but we're not going to do that. We don't have a lot of pony power, or this is really Griffin power. We only have 36,000, so we need to be very careful where we're going with that. And we cannot do anything until this event fires. And this is what I was talking about. So you have the old guard, here's the duchy, or the duchess, and then you start to become the actual kingdom. And then you have over here the Archeon, which is again the pretty much the how would you say it, the religious sector here, and then they go down this way. So we're gonna go this way for sure. I think it would be fun. We just played supremacist, so I'm gonna jump up to 4 speed, let this start going. We are the Reichspakt, so can't do. Is there anything we can do? Nope. Have to wait. That's fine. We can wait. We'll just build some political power up. Run volunteer only, export focused civilian economy. A train trip. Despite his deteriorating health, the Emperor has decided to embark on a trip across Herzland via train in order to showcase the new imperial railway system and, more importantly, to convince the people that his days are not yet over. Reluctantly, after heavily protesting against the trip and arguing that he should stay in bed, the emperor doctors let him go. Nobles and commoners alike gathered at Griffonheim's brand new railway station to witness the emperor's departure. A shining steam locomotive had been prepared with a dozen ornate cars attached to it, all built by the finest metalworkers and carpenters money could hire. The trip was supposed to be long and last several weeks, so there was enough space and supplies for His Majesty's entire entourage. When Grover V finally arrived on his personal automobile later than expected, the nobles raced to welcome him and showered him with praise about the railway project and how all would now, witness the coming of the modernity to the empire. The emperor nodded wearily, as he always did when receiving empty platitudes from greedy sycophants, and coughed. He simply walked to the station escorted by heavily armored imperial knights, and was next beset by the commoners who either lauded his project or begged for reforms to give them land and bread instead of expensive trains. When he finally got inside his private railroad car, he asked not to be disturbed, sat down, sighed, and took a nap. The train whistled, signaling that its journey had begun. What's the worst that could happen? I hate when people say that. Gain 100 political power and 10% stability. If you guys are curious and something ever is going on in your life, don't ever say, what's the worst that can happen? Because something worse could happen. Here's Bronzhill. So we're hoping that they will call the council, do old loyalties, and the rightful regents, I believe. Yeah. The Coldstream Summit today, the Coalition General Reporter released the agreement drafted by the leaders of the River Coalition after their summit in the city of Coldstream. As per the course, the summit formally renewed the defensive pact between all 8 nations and their promise to stand together against any outside incursion. However, the agreement goes beyond the status quo and actively condemns the bloodshed currently occurring in the county of Longsword, warning Count Palace to end his abuse of native ponies. The agreement also hopes for a peaceful resolution for the Broadfield Civil War, but the language included in the pact does not pave the way for an immediate military intervention. Broadfield's down here. Here's the kingdom against the Liberation Army. The Grand Hoofball game. The Vrax Yellow Jackets and the Griffonian Fowls faced off today in what many expected to be the sporting event of the century. The two teams have showed what many would call an unfriendly rivalry ever since they first encountered each other on the hoofball fields 21 years ago. Ever since that climatic day where the score ended up being a 6-6 tie with the two teams having vowed to defeat the other. The roster for both teams was considered phenomenal today, with many promising newcomers on both sides. Many expected that today's game would finally bring an end to the streak of stalemates that have plagued the two teams, as each team had yet to beat the other. Alas, it seems today was not the day, with the match results similarly being declared null and void by the referee. The problem started just 8 minutes in when the Yellow Jackets managed to score an early goal against the Fowls. The early setback caused the Fowls to panic, and a few minutes later, one of their star players, Herman Mudbeak, was disqualified after it was declared that picking up the ball and flying it to the other team's goal was not a legitimate move. This strings of setbacks continued to plague the Fowls for the rest of the game, and finally came to a head just a scant 7 minutes from the end of the game, 4-2 in the Yellow Jackets' favors. It was then that the unconscious bodies of several prominent members of the Fowls were discovered, though this led to the unmasking of 3 changelings, which had apparently infiltrated the Fowls in an attempt to sabotage their efforts. The stadium then erupted into a brawl between the supporters of the two teams, with the Yellow Jacket and Fowls quickly left the scene. This might be the most controversial match between the two teams yet. It is far from the last, as a rematch has already been rescheduled, with many eager fans pre-ordering their tickets as soon as the announcement came, although the Yellow Jackets will be sporting an all-new team after the previous members were shot by their guards upon returning to their hotels. How exciting. What a crazy story. A gift from Skyfall today. Like each year, we have received a single coin paid personally by the Chancellor of Skyfall, Ghislain Gucard. The coin and idol is sent as a replacement and consolidation prize for the lost idol of Boris. It's been 35 years since the loss of the idol and 28 since Gucard came up with that joke. He's apparently still not tired of it. Mar dang traitor. He'll get his own. I'll get him. Ain't worried about it. I would like to look real quick. I'm not going to actually change over, but we do got Griffin technologies, just like we had Changeling technologies. So instead of Jaegers, we have Knights, which are pretty cool. I mean, I like that. Let's see, resources, construction, factory, max factories. Some pretty good ones. We can fly leg infantry. We can even give them movement, or we can just make them better. Hardness, reconnaissance, defense. I don't know which way we're going to go. And then Air and Navy down here. I know this is going to be our #1 early. See, we can modify our government, get some political power gain. I wouldn't mind that. Maybe even, again, I don't know which one we get to keep. So I think I'll go Silent Workhorse. Just get that political power up. He's going to give us plus 15%, but we got bloated bureaucracy. I didn't even read our national spirits. My bad. So we got bloated bureaucracy, which gives us negative 0.75 daily political power gain, minus 15% stability, construction speed minus 10%, research speed minus 30%. We got the Reichsarmee, which army experience gain plus 0.02 daily, daily command power gain plus 0.05, maximum command power increase plus 10, land doctrine cost minus 10%. The changeling Griffonian attaché, armor speed plus 3, armor division attack plus 3, land doctrine cost minus 3, and armor research plus 6%. And the Arcanet of Bueres, we get consumer goods factor minus 5% and daily supremacy port plus 0.01. Griffenheim's been the seat of the Archeon of the Boris for the past 200 years, and as such, the Archeon exerts quite a bit of influence in local politics. Little goes on in the city without the Archeon knowing about it. All right, back home, the railway trip was a rousing success. The Emperor and his escorts had first gone into Griffenheim to Bronzekreuz, where loyal Diamond Dog nobles welcomed him extremely warmly and gave him many gifts. He then traveled to Redwater, where he spoke with Duchess Gabriel Eagleclaw, his dear cousin and friend, and then across the Griff King River to nearby Divlogus, where he enjoyed a quiet dinner with Duke Gerlach IV of Felicia. Next, his journey took him to Oldwingburg, where the local peasant council welcomed him, its members offering their own fresh farm produce to show their gratitude for the railroads. Soon the emperor arrived in the free city of Roma, where Archeon Aaron the 12th, Archeon Aaron the 12th, which to discuss politics with him in private was refused by the tired emperor, who was not particularly fond of the infamous zealot. A day later, he was in Greenback, where local engineers who had worked on the railway project were anxious to know if he had enjoyed the ride so far. When it came time to head to Ang River, the emperor asked if they could just go home instead, but his servants insisted they had to complete the whole journey, so he would not. God forbid, insult Bern, Lear the vicious, and Princess Diluza the insane. Grumbling, he slept until the train arrived in Griffring, but struggled to wake up. It was all in vain. It turned out, as the Baron had no interest in meeting him. The visit to Kattenburg was equally swift, so they would all avoid catching a curse or two. Then finally, after many weeks, the trip ended and the exhausted emperor returned home. But on the following day, he barely got out of bed and complained of pain. Doctors promised to check on him as soon as he had held urgent meetings with the aristocrats. And so the emperor met nobles after noble, hearing their petty complaints, pretending to listen to their pleas while trying not to fall asleep, until he collapsed without warning. Archeon Eros the Eighth, who was advising the emperor, quickly came to his aid and accused the nobles of poisoning him. When he realized his majesty had lost consciousness, the 98-year-old Griffin tried to carry him on his own and shouted for aid. The emperor was quickly rushed to his private chambers and is currently being taken care of by the empire's finest medical experts. The Archeon spent days and nights sleeplessly praying to the gods. His days might be over yet. Lose 150 political power and negative 10% stability. Remember when I said don't ever say, oh, what's the worst that could happen? That right there. That's the worst that could happen. This is where we want to go to. So we need to get down to the duchy or the duchess and deal with the bureaucrats, the bureaucracy. The Fear Tree villages declared war on the megocracy. Most of these places, when we came over here in the last playthrough, were almost all communists. So Biccolini becomes prime minister. An intense week of backroom meetings between the king and Biccolini has finally produced a result. The king spoke to a large crowd in Carthrin, announcing Giulio Biccolini, leader of the far-right PNF, as Lombardy's new prime minister. Replacing the previous Venezuelan government, Biccolini has formed a new cabinet, surprising most with the inclusion of socialist ministers, and was promised a swift end to the political deadlock. Experts are skeptical of his chances, but there is a certain sense of hope among the common Lombardians. Perhaps a self-fashioned Duce may bring about order. Interesting. The Emperor is dead. Unfortunately, after nearly a month of treatments and therapy, ranging from latest scientific medicine to holy anointments by priests, zebra potions, and other exotic magical mystery cures, Emperor Grover, the fifth of his name, was embraced by the claws of Boris at the age of 47. His caretaker said his last words were, "Boris, did I do good?" His unstable and controversial reign has finally come to an end, and all of Hersland is in mourning, with black flags hoisted from Rotterdam to Strasbourg and from Yale to Varsifler. His funeral procession in Griffonheim was attended by hundreds of thousands of griffins. His closest friend, Gabriel Eagleclaw, was the only vassal who arrived in time to participate, and who was seen wearing a beautiful yet mournful black gown. Archeon Eros VIII held a fiery sermon where he declared that an age had come to an end, but calmed down and almost broke into tears. 5 minutes of silence was observed in the city as Grover V was laid to rest in the grand temple of Boreas. Some would say that Grover V was a pathetic ruler, others would call him kind. Many citizens secretly despised him, yet a few pitied him instead. His father, Grover IV, had intended to personally groom his hair and make him into a mighty warrior, cunning diplomat, and expert state griff, but died unexpectedly of a stroke when his only child was only 10 years old. So instead, Grover V would become a neglected puppet while the nobles ruled the empire as they pleased, accruing more and more wealth and privileges. The young and sickly emperor was denied his throne when he turned 18 and lacked the willpower to demand it, but it later turned out he did not need it to do so. The revolution of 978 brought a bloody end to the regency, and the emperor only survived thanks to Archeon Eros' efforts. A counter-revolution led by Duchess Gabriel gave him his rightful powers, but at the point he ruled over a tiny remnant of the once vast empire, surrounded by vassals who demand autonomy in return for their contribution to the counter-revolution. The emperor spent the following tumultuous years trying to learn how to rule, which meant that many of his well-intended projects failed miserably. His last gift to his people, and possibly his only accomplishment in life, was the brand new imperial railway system that connected much of the Hersland. He would be called incompetent or simply most unfortunate. Now history repeats itself due to his only son and heir, Prince Grover the Sixth, not being of age in which he is capable of ruling the country himself. A regency council consisting of nobles, merchant princes, and temple officials shall take over the apparatus of state until a more suitable solution is found. We can only pray it does not end like the previous regency. Emperor Grover V passes away. We now get the Regency Council. We get Provisional Government, which gives us Generate War Goal, Tension Limit plus 100%, Join Faction, Lend Lease, Send Volunteers, Guaranteed Tension Limit, and Justify War Goal Time plus 100% for all. We lose an additional 50 political power, a negative 35% stability, and then we add Grover the Sixth of Griffonstone, which grants stability plus 5%. So we really lose 30% of stability. Alright, so now the Emperor is dead, and we will be doing the Old Guard. The Archeons would have you believe that the aristocrats are little more than drunken wretches burning their money away on festivities filled with debauchery. Although we cannot speak for all of us, there is still a sizable, hard-working majority who wish to see the Emperor's glory properly restored to restore our traditions and honor, and so shall it be. 50 day. The Emperor is dead. After a long 40-year reign, the Griffonian Emperor Grover V passed away in the Imperial Palace. Once a brief period of utter chaos in the capital ended, a grand funeral procession was organized for the late Emperor, and a ceremony was held confirming Grover VI's succession to the Imperial throne. The new Emperor is a minor, too young to rule, so a Regency Council was established to guide and care for him, and rule the Empire in his stead. Time will tell if the Regency will end like the last one, in revolution and bloodshed. The Empire mourns. Very sad. So now he can call. I want to see. I want an intelligence agency will build whatever they call it. MFOS or whatever it is. Bronzehill sends a gift. In the wake of the Emperor's death, our vassal in Bronzehill has presented us with a truly beautiful gift. It's part of Diamond Dog culture, and in the event of a death, the dogs close to the deceased will gather gemstones, known as flower gems, and sculpt them into a memorial. These dogs have remembered their loyalty to the crown well and have submitted their gift, crafting a truly impressive statue of Grover V, constructed out of the precious gems gathered by hundreds of thousands of the country's citizens. Many have called for us to place a statue in the Imperial Mausoleum as a sign of our gratitude to this cherished gift. While it would no doubt be a glorious addition to the Emperor's tomb, it cannot be ignored that the statue would fetch a higher price among art collectors, with the money helping to stabilize our own budget. Oh, that's horrible. No. We will send it a thanks, and we will put it in his mausoleum. Thank you, my friends. Count Ignatius Bronzetail. Let's see. Exile from Griffonian. The Equestrian Games, the annual celebration of equestrian games in Crystal City, have just come to a close, with Princess Celestia herself holding a moving speech about friendship and its importance of all pony kind. The game went ahead without any major problems, and ponies from all over Equestria, contenders and spectators alike, traveled to the Crystal Empire for this special occasion. Like every year, these games have helped ponies come together in friendship and tolerance, at least for the moment. We shall see whether this will have any major impact on pony politics in the near future. Quaint, but not our concern. Very much true. The Megaocracy 1. So now you have Shine Spark in charge. King Griffhoof. The Griffonian host. Or Griffian host. I'd like to see what goes on with that. I want interrogation techniques. No. This diplomatic training. Might be wondering why. I would like to pressure these guys as much as I can to go the way our way. A letter from Skyfall. A note arriving to Griffonheim today. One penned by Chancellor Gucard of Skyfall and addressed to the young Grover. Personally, the officials were puzzled. The Chancellor was known for his lack of diplomacy towards the Empire, and especially his petty cruelty towards the Imperial dynasty, and so the letter was opened and reviewed by the officials under order from the Regency to make sure it wouldn't hurt the young Emperor. The panel decided that it was safe for him to read. Grover, the sixth personal tutor, was tasked to bring him the letter and read it to him. The young Emperor acquiesced without hesitation, knowing little at his age of the old Chancellor's deeds. Gucard, through his letter, offered the fledgling his condolences and went to describe what he did against his father and why. The tone was apologetic, if a bit self-serving and gentle. Finally, little Griff apologized for all his deeds and told Grover that he hoped maybe someday there could be a detente between Skyfall and the Empire, and that maybe, just maybe, the young Emperor could live through less brutal times. The young Grover didn't quite understand the words detente, but his eyes were watery by the end of the letter. The tutor asked him if he wanted to reply to the message. Grover told him to simply write back, "Thank you." The next week, the Foreign Affairs Minister received news that Gucard was sending donations to the Imperial charities in the name of the late Emperor. At last, he seems to have found decency in him. Political power plus 10. Doesn't mean we're not net 139 right now, but I appreciate it. Let us do Dagger in the Dark. When words fail, we turn to sabotage and deceit. Archeon Aaron holds least popularity within the common folk and Regency Council. In fact, we can exploit by calling some old friends within Rama to spread our words of choice. The Duchess takes the stand. Poor Grover, he's too young, too fragile for this cruel world, but with change comes an opportunity. These were Duchess Gabriel's thought as she walked down the venerable halls of the Imperial Palace. As much as she personally considered the late Emperor her friend, she knew that he was no proper ruler. The convening nobles have abused Grover for far too long, and she was ashamed to share the same room with them. That would be dealt with later on. She had a grand vision of the Empire, one that would make Boris proud of Griffins again, and more importantly, give the young heir a proper territory to rule once he was old enough. But first, she must deal with Eros and his thugs. Religious officials are such a nuisance. With that, she stepped into the council's chambers. The Archeon was already there, giving a sermon to the gathered nobles. What a bother! She took a seat next to the Count of Bronzetail, turning out the speech and discussed the situation in hushed whispers. Gabriel ignored Eros grandstanding until he finally decided to remove his old hide from the central podium. With that, she took her chance, strolling down to the center and addressed the room. My fellow nobles and other griffins worthy of respect, the esteemed Archeon speaks well of the situation. We must have stability, and we must reassert our authority, but how can we trust the Arcanet to provide for our nation? She ignored the scowls of Eros and his lackeys were sent in her way. They talk of war, but do they care for the little griffin? How can we get anywhere before we modernize our beloved Herslin, before we help our people? I implore you all to consider the right choice. Cheers and applaud followed, with a loud minority of jeers and claw pointing. It didn't matter, the council will back her claim for regency, and Eros will be marginalized, consigned to the altar where he belongs. For the Empire, and for its nobles' peers. Change of popularity of non-aligned 2%. Game-based stability plus 10%, and war support plus 5%. She's much more for the people, getting us built up, and then going to war. Let's see, 20 days till we get our spy. So they're gonna call the council. We're gonna do all of this, then they'll open up the council, all loyalties. And then the rightful regent, hopefully. There's a war going on. Do radios. Man, that research is rough. Let's do the dagger in the dark, and we'll jump over to a calm voice of reason. And I guess we'd have to. Yeah. Calm voice of reason. The longsword war is going on now. Friends in the Arid Arcanet. Reputation can make or break a griffin. The Duchy knew this well, or Duchess knew this well. Many nobles were left disgraced once the attention of unflattering comments landed on them, regardless of whether there was any substance of truth in them. Sometimes a noble griff simply crossed the wrong piers. Such were the rules of the courtly intrigue, and Gabriella was keenly aware of them, which is why she decided to use these same tactics against the Archons. Although Eris and Proteus were unfortunately too beloved and incorruptible, the same could not be said of their weakest link, Aaron. It was an open secret that he conducted himself in a manner considered shameful by even the priesthood of Aaron's standards. Gabriella knew just how to exploit the situation. She was a friend of a local priest named Hephaestus, whose advancement was stubbed by Aaron plenty of times. She was certain that he would be open to suggestions of revenge in exchange for an open seat in the Arcanet once the true order took control. With that, she began writing a letter which would arrive tomorrow in Ruma, which is right there. The following week saw plenty of controversy in Roma and beyond as multiple accusations emerged targeting various high-ranking religious officials. The common griffins were outraged to hear that their alms ended with funding extravagant parties, and worse yet, the tales of abuse committed by young initiates. While many of these stories had few facts behind them, and while Arcanans still had their claws full on trying to minimize the extent of the damage, the public opinion swung back in the noble's favor. Everything was going according to Gabriella's plan. Act as you preach, Aaron. We gain 5% stability, 50 political power, and change in popularity to supremacy minus 5%. Then this is the city of, or free city of Roma. And then I think there's this, the Yale Rectorate also has part of it. Civil War in Longsword. The county of Longsword has been under the rule of the Reformistan faction of the Griffonian or Griffin Knights. These Reformistans have been cruelly persecuting local ponies while failing to address any of the other issues in their nation. Unrest has been brewing in the nation for some time now, with the ponies forming an organized resistance against the Reformistan. Rumor has it some Griffins, fed up with their government's atrocious behavior, have joined the ponies in the struggle. Meanwhile, the military and Rosewood Knights have used the opportunity to revolt as well. Leading the saner elements of both, Conrad Wavewing hopes to remind the Longwardians of their duty. Pallas Dugstalin, the reformist Count of Longsword, has denounced all of his enemies, struggling to scramble his meager forces. Dugstalin finally lost control. We hope that Conrad Wavewinger wins, or that these guys win. The only thing I would like, and they can't do it, and I think that it kind of is rough. I wish you could bring these guys in to the Reichspakt, but I don't think you can, which is, again, I don't really agree with that, but both revolutionaries. Okay. Well, it's not the worst. Just start doing diplomatic pressure. See what happens with that. We're going to do Calm Voice of Reason. And then we have to do the Die Clean Subrung, which is very painful. start doing this. The Empire is more unstable now than ever before. The Emperor's death has raised even greater concerns for us, especially in the army. Many officers being disloyal and treacherous, something that we cannot accept and tolerate if the Empire is to survive. We must purge all disloyal personnel at once, no matter the price. Division organization minus 10%, recruitable population factor minus 25%, war support minus 15%, division attack minus 10%, and division defense minus 10% for 280 days. So not for forever, but that is a hard one to swallow there. Gerlach's speech. Time is of the essence, thought Duchess Gabrielle. Her little speech gathered support for her cause, but it was still inconclusive. Whom will the council elect for the regency? The next matter to be discussed with the admittance of the common-born griffins of some repute to the council, and that simply cannot be allowed. Eris's blatant populism would spell doom for the empire if the actual commoners found out about it, and no Griff needs another 978. Fortunately, the opportunity presented itself. The Grand Duke of Fidecia arrived in Griffonheim today. His coming unnoticed by most, as he was fond of traveling incognito. He was sent to deliver his speech in the council chambers tomorrow. And while he is a pure-blooded noble, Gabriella suspected the Archeons likely could persuade him to support an inferior cause. He can be irritating and pragmatic sometimes, but the Duchess had her own plans in mind. She will invite him to dine at her Griffonheim estate and take advantage of his fondness for her in order to secure an alliance. Thus the evening came. The two noble griffins seated in front of each other at the Duchess's opulent dining room. Pleasant chatter was exchanged over a traditional Fidesian feast with dishes such as snert and majescharin. Thankfully, he refrained from devouring the fish in primitive ways. It was certainly unbecoming to be seen doing so. As Gabrielle was about to make a comment on the latest gossip, she suddenly interrupted by the normally tight-beaked Grand Duke. Lady Eagleclaw, I do not wish to disrespect your hospitality, but I am keenly aware of your invitation's purpose. This came as no surprise to her, as she made a strong effort to flatter his sensibilities. In fact, he gave her an opening to cut straight to the matter at Claw. Forgive me, Grand Duke, but I believe it's within our mutual interest to stand together against the Archeons and their wicked schemes. They cannot be trusted to rule our legacy. As Gerlach silently considered his options, she pressed further. Think, what would Grover want? This got his attention, his eyes gleaming at the memory of the late Emperor. So it is, Duchess, so it is. Tomorrow at the council meeting, Gabriella could only smugly listen to Gerlach's speech, lambasting the Archeons for their irresponsible actions. This will certainly draw some of the indecisive nobles to vote for her regency. As his speech drew to a close, she thought about setting up another dinner. The Grand Duke is certainly easily on the eyes. Your devotion will not be forgotten, Gerlach. Gain base stability plus 5%, 50 political power, and change popularity of non-aligned by 2%. Very nice. Grand Duke Gerlach the Fourth. There has to be a war going on somewhere. Probably here. I have been absolutely loving playing this mod. I think this mod has a lot to go for it, but I think that some of these older focuses trees are most definitely feeling their age. Not horribly, but you can most definitely tell that they're not probably as good as they could be anymore, but they are still very fun. The county of Bronzeville just got theirs done. So Summer Sun Celebration. Ponies from all trots of life have gathered today in Camelot to witness the Summer Sun Celebration. Originally a holiday made to commemorate Princess Celestia's victory over the festering nightmare. Nowadays it celebrates the longest day of the year, Princess Luna's return, and the magic of friendship. Not a sound could be heard as Princess climbed on the raised dais, taking a long gaze on the gathered ponies and proceeded to raise the sun. The crowd watched in amazement at the grand display of the Alicorn's benevolence, and cheering continued long after the sun rose. Festivities continued for the remainder of the day. The spirit of Equestria is resonating in the continued showing of respect to her traditions. Lies, our God raised the sun, not her. Just standing on a dais, watching the sunrise, and people think you're holding on to it. You gotta worry about you, and you. Ooh. The Barrack Revolt. Ferdinand Dongclaw sat in his office located in one of the innumerable military bases that dotted the capital of the Griffonian Empire. Ferdinand considered himself a patriot in a sense that was true. He did love the Empire in his own strange way. This precisely because of that love that he had to rebel. In his mind, the Empire simply couldn't survive without a radical change in the status quo. Could an already weakened empire survive with a mere child in charge with the nobles circling around him like vultures? No, something had to be done. Ferdinand knew that his chances of success were slim and that he would most likely just go down in history as another nameless traitor to the empire. A fool whose futile rebellion was quickly crushed. Reports started to trickle in his forces were converging on the imperial palace, and soon they had faced the palace guard in direct combat. Ferdinand could do nothing but wait and hope that his soldiers could match the ferocity of the hardened defenders they now faced. The next few minutes would decide the fate of the entire empire, and by extension, the course of history itself. The revolt's crushed, or the soldiers storm the palace. The revolt is crushed. That's also why I did not choose a field marshal in the beginning. This guy right here. A very good general, too. A traitor's death. Ferdinand Donclaw, one of the Emperor's most recent traitors, was publicly executed in the capital today, with the events drawing little attention from the rest of the Empire. Ever since attempting a failed coup several days ago, the Griffin had simply waited his fate. Once the time finally came to lay judgments down on him, no legacy was taken, and he was found guilty of high treason as well as conspiracy to commit regicide. There was only one punishment worthy of such evils, and he was sentenced to be hung from the gallows at dawn. The Griffin ordered no defense for himself, staying silent through the entire court case, seemingly having accepted his fate. The execution itself was a subdued event, with a scant few military officials and curious onlookers showing up. Of the few Griffins present at the event, Elias Bronzetail was the most senior in rank, showing up out of the little respect he had once for the foolish general. There was no grand speeches or denunciations at the execution. Ferdinand was simply led up to the gallows, and minutes later he hung dead in the air. In the end, Ferdinand Donclaw died a mundane death, one which was observed by few. He would be a footnote in history, another mad general driven by a lust for power, an insignificant traitor whose pitiful rebellion was put down before it could even start in earnest. It was a fitting end. Good riddance, gained 50 political power, 5% base stability, and Ferdinand Donclaw is removed. So Bronzetail will be our main general under, let's see, August Dusk Wing will be our main pretender, or our main officer. My two Panzer divisions will be going under a different general. Oh, whoops. For some reason I have two different types of Panzer divisions. And then my Imperial Knights will also be under their own general. So tanks will go under Reinheld Thundertail. And my Knights will be going under Oscar Silverfeather. Let's see. Panzer Grenadier. That's the Panzer. That's the Panzer Grenadier. So really the Panzer Grenadier is much better. Alright, we'll keep going. Finish out Die Klein Subroom. Do separated complexes. I like that, especially for the retention rates and stuff. Of Things That Never Happened, an interesting book was published today, Of Things That Never Happened by Barris Solartail. It follows the life of a character simply known as Ropshin, a Republican terrorist who had been ordered by his superiors to assassinate the Wingardi King Gumberto. His attempt fails, however, which changes the course of history. The empire never falls apart, and the revolution of 978 never takes place. As Griffonia prospers, Ropshin begins to question his Republican values and eventually just becomes a loyal supporter of the empire. While the premise of the story is rather simple, the writer focuses more on the character of Ropshin and his belief that the actual plot of the story, and some critics have even pointed out that at times it feels that the character and the writer are the same person. Nevertheless, the book has been generally warmly received by both commoners and noble alike. Ropshin, you say, where I've heard that name before. Change in popularity of Harmony -1%, and gain 5 political power. We've got modest illiteracy. Newly industrialized society. Developed science-based. The Buffalo Chieftain. Equestrian region. The infamous Buffalo State has existed as enclave state within Equestria for decades now. Proud Buffalo chiefs do not accept ruining and exploiting of their soil by pony farmers. However, many experts doubted the state was truly independent as they fully relied on equestrian trade. The situation has changed in recent years as new Buffalo leader rose to power. Chiefess Strongheart. She was known for a warm attitude towards ponies, and as follows, she accepted Princess Celestia's offer of friendship. And today, the integration of Buffalo State as an autonomous region of Equestria is finished. All Buffaloes are going to receive full citizenship and farming subsidies. Interesting. Not that it matters over here, but nonetheless interesting. The Griffonian frontier broke free from the influence of Nova Griffonia. Let's do the industrialists and bankers. It's got Virgilia, and then T-Feather. The county has lost, and now the Liberation Army is, it's like it's pushing ahead. The Grand Galloping Gala. The annual ball is held at Candlelight Castle tonight. Royal family high rank, higher ranks of equestrian government and friends are gathering at the event to enjoy the evening and discuss political issues. Fancy drinks and classical music were accompanying it through the night. The ball was ended with a splendid firework display. Equestria does not fail to support our traditions. To many ponies, this is assurance of stability and prolonged peace in good old Equestria. Cheers. Civil War in Olenia. After weeks of civil unrest in the capital, King Johann and other nobles have fled the capital, leaving it to the hooves of the citizens. Portland Palace is reported been looted. Meanwhile, in the Riksdag, formerly elated officials of the banned Deer parties have returned and are preparing to form a new government. The rebellion has spread to other cities where Deer are starting to arm themselves. While military officials have voiced their support for the new government, King Johann, meanwhile, has spoken out on the national radio and rallied his supporters against the communist threat. With no other option left, a state of civil war now exists in Olenia. Oh, well. I'm looking at all these other countries, though I can't do anything with my little area. Bankers and industrialists. Support from the Nider Adel. Imperial industrialists. As Duchess Gabriella walked through the buzzy halls of Karstal offices, her thoughts were on legacy. The empire may last for centuries or not even a decade, but its cultures and achievements will never be forgotten. But where the state comes and goes, its inhabitants are eternal, and more importantly, the money. Great wealth is concentrated within the many companies dotted in the business districts of Griffenheim, and she knew that having their support can change it all. Thus today, as she would dedicate her morning to one known as Syrian Greytalon, the most notable captain of industry in the city, he accepted an invitation for a meeting without hesitation, and before she knew it, she was sitting across the business magnate in his opulent office. My dear Gabriella, what brings you to my humble workplace? Syrian stated with no hint of irony, chomping on his favorite golden Griffin cigar, exclusive from Skyfall. I'll need the favor you promised me, Saren. I need your support and your colleagues' assistance against the Archeons. You know we can't let them take over the state. Greytail leaned forward, exhaling a whiff of smoke. The Duchess didn't seem to be hazed by it. Your favors don't come cheap, Gabriella. What's in it for me and for the cross stall? I must work for my bread like every other Griffin, you know. The ever predictable Sauron and his greed. You'd think he'd be made enough in his lifetime, but some were never content. Tax breaks, subsidies, exclusive government contracts. We won't nationalize your factories like the Archeons would. They'd probably give it all to the peasants too. Gabriella could practically hear the sounds of idols clinking in Sauron's head. Her offer would clearly improve his next quarterly report. Then I believe we have an outstanding deal, my dear. The industrialists of the empire will stand by your side. Calls were shaken, pleasantries were exchanged, and a proposal for the expansion of middling business was drawn up. From a letter for the purpose of putting a good impression on the least fortunate, of course. The Duchess returned to her Griffonheim manor, and another piece of her plan put in motion. It wouldn't be long until she had everything she needed. Strawn's a different Griffin once you get to know him. Gained 5% stability, 25 political power, and 1 civilian factory in Helheim. You can see where she's a little bit, she's very, like a spy master almost. She really kind of works behind the scenes and gets everything going the way she wants it. Oh no. They're going a change of course. New Daring Do book. After many months of anticipation, A.K. Yearling has finally released Daring Do and the Changeling Spectre, a thrilling espionage action thriller. In the latest entry to the franchise, Daring Do sneaks into Queen Chryselius' capital, Vessel Apollos to find the Queen Coven Ark, while being hunted by Queen Chrysalia's agents, the Spectres. After a lighthearted adventure trilogy, many reviewers were shocked by Changeling Spectre's dark tone. Others, like renowned critics Quibble Pants, lambasted the book's focus on politics, saying that it makes everything after the original trilogy look good. Daring Do's newfound realism will shiver ponies' spines, but the author's latest entry has lost the escapade elements that made her series so great. Still, the book has sold thousands of copies in the first day, and Applewood movie producers have already inquired about film rights. 6 out of 10 stars. We were really wanting this one. Sometimes you just don't get what you get. Start counterintelligence. Support from them, and we will do the Duchess. Convincing the Neoder Adel, the proper conduct of nobility is something every peer understood and upheld. At least that's what the Duchess believed. An exquisite upbringing, which would translate into a decent member of high society, some Griff to look up towards, and yet to her internal embarrassment, most nobles were content to engage in crass displays of debauchery, the kind that would make a priestess of Air blush and shame. So they are smart enough to keep it behind curtains. Unlike certain lesser aristocrats, these landless lords would continuously make fools of themselves, cleaning their empty titles and dressing in fashions that went out of style decades ago. Despite being genuine waste of Boris given air, Duchess Gabriella found a possible use for them. Despite holding functionality factious titles of the lands that hadn't been under imperial control for decades, they were still peers recognized by the imperial court as such a sufficient number present their cause. The Regency Council, there would be no choice but to be accepted. Gabriella only needed a few more claws on her side to claim the Regency for herself, and despite the distaste for their mockery of the peerage, went forth to persuade a sufficient number. It'd be a busy day, but at least she knew where most of them spent their days. It would be a simple matter of what to say and promise, and no guarantee for following on them later on. The following day at the session of Regency Council had an unusual commotion as dozen foppish nobles interrupted the session and demanded that their privileges be given and respected. The guards were close to kicking them out of the streets, but the Duchess intervened, saying that their titles were legitimate. Thus they joined their colleagues, and when the vote came, they all voted unanimously for Gabriella Eagleclaw. The Archons were furious at being fooled yet again. They may be upstarts, but they're better than Eros. We gained 10% stability, 50 political power, and change popularity of non-aligned by 3%. Perfect. Defense, not really. But that's okay. We'll probably be on the defense for most of our beginning part. Let's get the... we'll just have to use you first. Then maybe switch over to Reichswaffen. There we go. I'm guessing that's over here. Yeah, right there. Reichswaffen. Once we get her done, deal with the bureaucrats. And maybe even unite the nation. Sinister Surov elected General Secretary. This morning, Sinister Surov was sworn in General Secretary of the Stalingrad Communist Party in a short ceremony held in the Supreme Soviet. In his speech, the populist candidate promised radical reform to the collectivist economy. He also denounced Stalingrad's neighbors as capitalist imperialists and swore to spread the revolution to the oppressed workers. Heard that one before. Oh, yes. Planes. I don't have enough to make a difference. Pick up that's the price. Market options, auto accept. Now, whoever buys those planes, just automatically accept if anybody does. I really don't see a lot of people buy equipment from the game, but someone did. Nova Griffonia, the Changeling Lands. Well, they bought all my bombers, it looks like. Yeah, medium bombers, early bombers. Let's go to normal and see if we can sell them. I usually do that most games, and I kind of forgot to with the changelings, but we did snowball towards the end, so it was okay. All right, the Duchies is now our, or the Duchess is now our regent. Immediately get the bloated bureaucracy done with. That is like the worst national spirit we have. Meaning the Emperor Grover, my child, could you please come out from your rooms? The newly minted regent of the Empire, Gabriella Eagleclaw, pleaded once again to the closed door. It was a grand success of politics to have come this far for sure, and the look on Eris's face was priceless. But Gabriella now had a more personal conundrum to deal with. The young Emperor must be protected from things he cannot truly understand yet. Where's Daddy? I want my daddy back. The young Grover sobbed in his chambers. Gabriella could have easily gotten the door open, but she didn't want to force the poor chick. She had to be motherly, especially to a griffin who had never had a mother. Grover, I'll explain everything if you allow me to come inside. I promise it'll be better. She spoke calmly and slowly. The little scheme was a success, and the doorway slowly opened. Gabriella did not have a moment to observe the insides before she was pounced on by our weeping nephew. Quickly, she embraced Grover and placed a claw on his head, comforting him as best she could. Ma, Auntie Gaby, why can't Daddy come back? He was okay some time ago. No Griff relished the experience of death. Gabriella could thought inwardly, my dear nephew, your father was strong and wise, but he's in a better place now, which means you're the emperor now, and I will be your regent. Reject? What's that? What's that? It means I'll be handling your more difficult duties until you grow up and become a proper adult. Your father would have wanted this. He was a very dear friend to me, too. Okay, but I still miss Daddy. We all do, but we cannot spend all day crying. There's much work left to be done. Would you like to come with me to the throne room? The little Emperor eyes brightened at the mention of the throne room. Gabriel knew he was very fond of the rich decorations. All right. I think I'm ready to go now. Very good, my child. Make sure you're presentable, and we'll get going. You're in safe claws now, little Grover. She's ambitious, gives us plus 0.10 daily political power gain, plus 5% stability, and ideological drift defense, plus 5%. The Strawberry Duchy does not have a ruler now. There goes the Kingdom of Broadfield. I think we'll have to see this. The Imperial Banquet. The Imperial Banquet is an ancient Griffonian tradition that dates back to the glory days of the Empire. Every 10 years, nobles from all corners of the Empire would assemble at the capital of Griffonheim to spend one, sometimes even two, joyful evenings together. This helped strengthen our ties with the many dukes and princes of the Empire and allowed the Emperor to improve relations with them. The next banquet is scheduled in just a few weeks, but our court is unsure about the exact procedures. Considering our weakened hold of the continent, it's unsure whether we should invite only those nobles still loyal to the Empire, or whether we should extend a claw to all who were once under our banner as a sign of goodwill. We don't dine with traitors or a grand feast for all. We lose some political power, but I'd like to see what we can get out of the grand feast. Perwin Civil War ends. After nearly 3 years of bloody fighting in the fields of Perwin, the Civil War ended with communist revolutionaries claiming the victory. The country is left devastated, and it will take many months for the Griffins to rebuild their homeland. The fate of Broadfield's royal family and the future of the Perwinian Griffins is now in the claws of Philip Redgold. The neighbors are worried about the turn of events. So he'll probably kill the Empire, the royal family. The banquet last night made for a rather disappointed and poor sight. Of the many nobles that we invited, only a small fraction decided to accept. Justice Gabriella, Eagleclaw, and young Grover the Sixth attended as well and attempted to lighten the mood in the rather empty-looking halls of the Imperial Palace. The grand feast marked the end of the celebrations, and yet many places on the table remained empty. The regent thanked every griff that showed up and cursed all those that remained home under her breath. We get opinion of the Griffonian Emperor plus 30 and attended the Imperial Banquet opinion changed by 30. So let's see. Harmonic, communist, and the Iron Chancellor. Well, we're going to have to defeat Bronzehill, our good friends. I'm actually having quite a bit of fun with this. You know, this is just the first episode. Sometimes your first episode is very boring. Changeling Queendom declared war on the Dear Republic of Alenia, and the Principality of Lucy declared war on the bandits of Black Hollow. Volenia accepts changeling demands. An unexpected recent development, the Kingdom of Volenia has accepted the demands of the changeling lands, becoming little more than a puppet province. War has been avoided at the cost of freedom and control of their nation. The outcome of this diplomacy is a great concern for their southern neighbors, who are concerned as the changelings look at their next targets. So you've got the kingdom under the king now as a changeling puppet. So they went the protectorate. The Archaeans' defiance. After securing a victory for the nobility in the Regency Council and alienating both the eastern vassals and the three Archaeans, things were finally somewhat stabilizing in the imperial capital. Until today, that is. During a regular meeting of the council, Archaeon Eros and Proteus promptly denounced Duchess Gabriella and her allies as heathens and traitors, and later left the capital. They were shortly afterwards joined by the Senator of Ramu, Rector Magnificence of Yeldum, and the Baron of Angraver. Several hours after these events, they all formally declared their secession from the Empire. Soon news arrived from Oldwingburg as well about the local peasant council refusing to recognize a noble as the regent and formally declaring independence. Meanwhile, Katrine remains ominously silent, and no one knows what's taking place in those dark marshes. Curse you, Archons and traitors. Griffonian removes puppet from Free City of Ramu. Yale Rectorate, the Barony of Angraver, the Katrine Principality, and Griffin Martian Peasant Republic leaves the Reichspakt. So we lose 100 political power there. And everyone leaves. So now it's Brunsill, Strawberry Duchy, and the Grand Duchy of Fethesia. Please. Please, please. Don't rebel. We want this one. Nothing's happened with you yet. Really, we want to deal with the bureaucrats. I don't think we really want to jump down, but we kind of want to go to unite the nation at least. And that should be what requires all the following, so we need all of these. Okay. Could start a literacy campaign, which we're not going to just yet. This one probably would be the best one to do. We don't have to just yet. I think, let's see. Can't do none of these yet. We do this to get our militaries up. Interact with the changeling attaches. Alright, let's do support for the Reichsarmee. And then we also need to start doing some industry and infrastructure. Let's see. I want you to be called something. Kingdom of Brofield declared war on the Peruvian Liberation Army. I guess my knights won't have a name. Alright. Blue Moon Festival. Today, Griffins around the world gather to celebrate the annual Blue Moon Festival. Originating in Griffinstone, the traditional winter holiday is said to be the only time of the year when Griffins are nice to each other. Families put aside their feuds for a day and came together to exchange gifts, decorate their houses, and enjoy a delicious meal consistent of Griffin scones, warm eggnog, and golden gruel. Even during the wartime, Griffins prefer to take a break from the evening and are often granted leave so that they can visit their homes. While sharing much in common, the celebration differs from the Equestrian Hearth-warming Eve by having religious connotations, not commemorating a historical event or lacking theater plays. It's said that a festival of celebrations of all Griffin gods and divine unity is in the pantheon, especially between the three main gods, Boris, Yer, and Arcturus. Over the years, the Arcanauts have tried to push the event to focus on the three main deities alone, but especially in peripheral regions, lesser deities are still venerated. Indeed, different Griffin communities celebrate the festival in different ways, with traditions becoming more exotic the further away from Griffonstone you go. In recent times, the festival's religious importance has eroded. It's becoming primarily a cultural event celebrating the common heritage of Griffin kind. A toast to family and unity, gain 1% stability. Ponies and changelings. The morning of Griffonheim tended to be surprisingly peaceful. It seemed to be, despite all the hustle and bustle of the city, the Griffins still valued their slow mornings, and as such, they tended to become quite alarmed when something out of the ordinary happened. This is exactly what happens that morning as equestrian tourists ran desperately through the streets. They are coming, run, run, every pony, run for your lives. Their scream echoed throughout the massive streets of the capital and caused quite a stir. Mistakenly, many assumed that the treacherous communists had staged an uprising or that the Wingbardian commando group had been sent to assassinate the emperor. As the pony ran through the streets, they eventually reached the imperial palace, where they claimed to have information on the grave security threat. After eventually screaming their way in, they forced themselves to the imperial meeting room to speak to, or more likely to scream at, the regent. But as they opened the doors to the meeting room, the pony fainted out of shock and left the regent and changeling ambassador, which the regent had been meeting with, quite shocked. After recovering, the pony claimed that they had spotted changelings ready to attack, and they would be disguised as anyone. Of course, that had all happened in front of the changeling ambassador. The pony was shortly escorted out and told to be more tolerant and friendly to other races. How rude, gained 10 political power. You imagine just sitting there and going, what in the world? He's not bad. Cloakstown becomes a subject of the Kingdom of Abyssinia. We'll get support. The Winter Moon Celebration. A recent innovation proposed by Princess Twilight Sparkle, the Winter Moon Celebration is now a new holiday aimed at spreading awareness of Princess Luna and her wonderful night. The princess is chosen to host her event in Manhattan, known for its ponies that never sleep. To her surprise, the response was larger than she expected, with ponies from all over Equestria wishing to see their mysterious diarch. Flustered by the kindness shown, Princess Luna thanked all of them for attending and wished for unity and friendship in the coming harsh winter moons. As the princess worked her magic, the ponies were awed at the night sky, its beauty becoming all the more apparent with the constellations showing in full view and the light of the moon showering the crowd. The revelry continued late into the night, and the princess herself was seen mingling with the ordinary ponies as well. Wasn't Celestia the sole ruler? Question mark. Doing these three right here would be good. We also need to do those. Black Howl becomes a subject. This one would be good too. Mass adoption of the radio. Now we're only 18% research speed. Minus 18%. We were minus like 38 or 48. We do need to do the start a literacy campaign. A lot to do. Roadfill was defeated again. Alawani declared war on Timbuktu. I'm going to look to the left. And the LDP. Get this done, and then we'll jump over to this one. The military factory. No more coins from Skyfall today. Unlike previous years, the Imperial Foreign Affairs Minister didn't receive a letter from Skyfall, at least none containing any coins. It seems that the demise of Chancellor Gukard, the new leaders of Skyfall, had little interest in pursuing his particular form of humor. The joke shall not be missed. Gain 1 political power. Let's do modern industrial methods. Even better knights. Cannot afford that because I'm not building trucks. We do have a medium tank already available to us, which is nice. Take 1 off artillery. See you. Small cannon. Oh, that's all I have. Okay. We actually might start to build some of those with our medium tank designer. Republic of Rilla broke loose with the influence of the Kingdom of Aquilia. Alania was defeated. Let's see. Trucks. Not worried about muzzle loaders. Let's do a little bit better artillery. The Second Aquilian Revolution. The Kingdom of Aquilia, for the second time in recent history, is embroiled in revolutionary turmoil. The so-called Second Aquilian Revolution, Republicans and communist supporters have managed to quickly overwhelm, apprehend, or eliminate loyalist forces in several regions, throwing the country into chaos. The Republic is fiercely opposed by the monarchy supporters, who have sworn to destroy the revolutionary spirit once and for all. The Republic braced itself for the coming storm, ready to defend their ideals and values to the death. Interesting. Erie and Erie sound a white piece. Army planning, better. Ooh, entrenchment's really good. I think I'm going to save up, try to get to partial mobilization. Or we might actually get partial mobilization right here. We'll get early mobilization. Do you. But I might save up and do something else. Let's see. Strawberry Duchy. Oh, you went with these guys. Gonna have to beat them too. Start building a couple more military factories real quick. Start getting some trucks produced. Don't care about. No. Oh, we could keep that as our garrison. Let's see, Imperial Guard Division. It's not great. Let's get a few more produced out. Three Panzer. Why are you considered special? Motorized light tanks. There's nothing special about them. Whatever. Flowenia repels bank secrecy. The centuries-old tradition of client confidential came to an end earlier today in the free city of Flowenia. Its leading council, the Signory, unanimously agreed in a vote to repeal numerous laws enacting over the years that made disclosing customer information a punishable offense. Already thousands of documents have been published, and now hundreds of wealthy individuals across Griffonia have been exposed for using Flowenian bank accounts to evade taxes and launder money. Millions have already been confiscated. While the banks have lost many customers, their honest and law-abiding clients are happier than ever. Soon we have to find another bank to use. Not us. Might need to go up to limited conscription right away. Oh, we can go straight to war economy. That's actually really good. The monarchists have crushed the revolutionaries. One more military factory. That's a long wait for one military factory. No one else is buying my plane. So all of my friends have turned against me. Bronze Hill. And they defeated the Free Republic of Rilla. Failed revolution. With the surrender of the last Republican forces, the second unsuccessful revolution of Aquilia comes to an end. Many Griffins die in the struggle, but to no avail. The supporters of the kingdom have disarmed the revolutionary armies and capturing many leaders of the Republic. It's expected that just like the first Aquilian Republic, a reign of terror will now begin to purge the last remnants of republicanism in Aquilia. They're going Harmonic. You're going Archeon. And you're going whatever you want to go. I hate pretty much all of them. So you're Harmonic. You're who you are. Trying to find some non-aligned groups I can start trading with. I just have to wait for a little bit. Republic of Taran declares independence. After the collapse of the Griffonian Empire and the Aquilian Revolution, many countries had declared independence, with the last one being the Free Territory of Aldert, which broke off from the county of Griffwald in 987 ALB. In the years since, the number of nations of Griffonia had not grown until now. The Republic of Taran, the western half of the county of Equestria, has now declared independence. The region has been long in turmoil, with the resistance movement of FLNT fighting against the Francistrian garrison. Now they've won, but it remains to be seen how long their newborn nation will last in the tumultuous times. Yet another tiny state of Griffonia. We'll do you. And then start getting these done. The National Front of Patriotic Salvation. Chair Kirkin Fickle, current of the NAKP and leader of the North Kyria, today declared the formation of the Kyrian National Front for Patriotic Salvation, decrying the weakness of the Vermilion government, results in the total and dismissal failure of the Grand Galloping Onward and the unconstrained growth of heretical rising fire in the West. He claimed that the NAKP, as vanguard of Kyrian civilization and progress, has taken on the mantle of saving the nation from vegetable forces of superstition, pusillanimity, and ineptitude long entrenched by the silence. He then declared the greater providence to liberate the rest of the realm and called on all true patriots of Kyria to join the NAKP and topple the ineffective mystics who have brought the nation to the brink of ruin. At press time, reports that the NAKP-sponsored troops have crossed the borders of Greater Providence and are spilling into the Great Melfluve watershed. I guess they've also learned about warmongering from Griffins. I guess so. Alright, well, we're not totally finished with the Reichswaffen contract for the weapons, but I am going to end the first episode of the Griffonian Empire here. I hope you guys have enjoyed our new series here, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.